Members, this is the session on welfare, poverty, alleviation and children. Let's welcome Secretary for Labour and Welfare, Mr. Chris Soon and his team. Members who would like to ask questions, please press the button. We'll now first hear from the Secretary. Good morning, everyone. In 25-26, government expenditure recurrent ones on social welfare is $130.4 billion, accounting for 22.2% of total recurrent expenditure. We are the first among the different policy groups. Compared with a revised estimate of 24-25 of $118.7 billion, there's an increase of about $11.7 billion, which is about 9.8%. Now I will highlight how we use these resources. First, the $2 scheme. The FS has announced in the 25-26 budget the adjustment of the $2 scheme. On the basis that the targeted beneficiaries remained unchanged, the government will change the fare to $2 or 20% of fare, which means that the beneficiaries will pay $2 for trips with fare that is below $10, and for full fares that is above $10, they will have to pay 20% of the full amount. Well, the amount of concessionary trips will be limited to 240 per month. The proposed measure meets our policy intent while striking a balance between enhancing the sustainability of the scheme and minimizing impact. Our preliminary estimate of the time at the time of the budget announcement was that the $2 20% fare will be implemented no later than September 2026. I understand that members are very concerned about the commencement of the proposal. We have been talking to the Octopus Cards Limited. We can now say with certainty that the $2 or 20% of fare will be implemented in April 2026, which is 5 months earlier than the original estimate. The early implementation of by 5 months, that means we will save $260 million. In relation to the limited number of trips, we will have to wait for the $2 or 20% of fare to be implemented for 1 year before we can implement the limited trips. We reckon that the limited trips proposal will be launched in 2027. We think that the $2 or 20% of fare is more important financially. That's why we want it to be launched as soon as possible. In terms of elderly services, the recurrent expenditure in this area is about $17 billion, an increase about 50% by $11 billion compared to 5 years ago. We'll continue to strengthen residential and community care services for the elderly. Starting from this year, in relation to residential care service vouchers for the elderly and the community care service vouchers for the elderly, they will both be increased by 1,000. The total amount for the two will be 6,000 for residential and 12,000 for community care. The amount involved annually is about 1,710 million and 900 million. In this year's budget, there's a proposal for a one-off extra half-month allowance to eligible recipients to Social Security payments, which will incur about $2,988 million, benefiting 1.71 million people. Similar arrangements will be put in place for the Working Family Allowance Scheme. It's expected that 56,000 households will benefit, incurring an expenditure about $96 million. Starting from Q3 of this year, the government will regularize the pilot project on enhancing vocational rehabilitation services to enhance services and training models in sheltered workshops and integrated vocational rehabilitation service centers to build a better ladder for PWDs. This involves an annual expenditure of about $100 million, which will benefit about 10,000 people. We will set up 14 integrated community rehabilitation centers across the territory in phases to provide PWDs who require medium to high-level care with flexible and integrated services through a case management approach. Well, besides 1,280 additional day community rehabilitation and home care service places will be provided for those with severe disabilities. There'll be an additional expenditure of about 160 million. Well, in view of remarkable effectiveness of peer support services for persons in mental recovery, the CE announced in the policy address that the services will be expanded to other types of disabilities. With 90 additional peer supporter posts added in district support centers for PWDs and parents' relatives resource centers. The expenditure will be about 21 million. The government will enhance the services of the 5 existing cyber youth support teams in Q2 by providing an online youth and emotional support platform. Total additional expenditure is around $150 million. On district services and community care teams, in March last year, the government launched a pilot scheme in Chunwan and Southern districts. The district care teams will identify singleton, doubletons, elderly and carers of elderly persons or PWDs in need, providing them with support. Given the satisfactory result of the pilot scheme, the CE announced in last year's policy address that the scheme will be extended across the territory in Q2 this year, supporting elderly people and carers in every district. The expenditure involved will be about $111.9 million. It's just started. The government is committed to building an inclusive society and supporting PWDs in developing their physical, mental, social capabilities to the fullest and to promote integration. To this end, the government is committed to increasing the number of rehabilitation, including day residential and respite care service places from about 37,300 in 23-24 to about 39,900 by 28-29. We'll also provide about 1,040 additional daycare, residential care, and preschool rehabilitation service places in 25-26. This involves an expenditure of about $186 million a year. Support to working families in childbearing. Over these 3 years from 2024, the government is setting up 11 more aided standalone childcare centers in phases, increasing its number from 15 to 26 and service places from about 1,000 to 2,000. 4 of these centers have commenced service last year, providing a total of 344 service places. The Social Welfare Department (SWD) will further enhance the Neighborhood Support Childcare Project by further increasing the number of places from 2,000 to 2,500. With the estimated number of beneficiaries increased from 20,000 to 25,000. Child protection. The mandatory reporting of child abuse ordinance will come into effect on the 20th of January next year, creating a wider and more effective protection web for children. In this connection, the government will provide an additional annual provision of $186 million to increase the number of emergency places for residential childcare service and strengthen professional support for child abuse victims and their families. To strengthen the prevention of child abuse from source, the government will allocate an additional provision of $96.9 million from 25-26 to 29-30 for setting up 4 community parents and child centers on a pilot basis. The centers will promote parent-child interaction through play and instill positive parenting skills in parents. They'll also render support for families who are in need. The 4 centers will commence operation starting from 26. The Productivity Enhancement Program. The FS announced in the budget that the government would step up the program on the premise that the comprehensive Social Security assistance and Social Security allowance will not be affected. The rate of reduction of recurrent expenditure will be increased from the original 1% to 2% in 25-26. This arrangement will be extended for 2 more years to 27-28. With 1% cut in 24-25, the cumulative rate of reduction will be 7% in total. After considering various factors and trying our best to redeploy resources, our Bureau and the SWD roll out 4 support measures to assist NGOs operating subvented social services in implementing the program. That includes shouldering part of the financial impact and exempting multiple items that are subject to reduction. 2. Increasing subvented NGOs' flexibility and certainty in utilizing resources of lump sum grant subvention. And 3. Reducing the workload of handling cost apportionment. And 4. Enhancing funding and service agreements. I have met with the heads of these NGOs immediately after the budget to explain to them the support measures. I'd like to thank the senior management of these NGOs for taking their staff, working with their staff to rise to challenges and for working with the government to make best of public resources and provide quality services. This is at the end of my opening remarks. We'll be happy to take questions. We have 109 minutes. 26 members have pressed the button. We'll allot 4 minutes to each member. Please remember that it includes question and answer. I don't think all members will have a chance to speak. Let me read out the names. Lam Chun Sing, Chow Siu Chung, Tik Chi Yuen, Yong Hoi Yen, Tan Ka Pew, Peter Kun, Michael Tien, Benson Luk, Lerman Kwong, Carmen Khan, Adrian Ho, So Chang Wing, Lai Tong Kwok, Doreen Kong, Nixie Lam, Chan Pui Leung, Tony Zhe, Stanley Lee, Andrew Lam, Junius Ho, Tan Yue Heng, Lilian Kwok, who is 22nd. There's a chance for her to speak. And then it's Wendy Hong, Stanley Ng, Kenneth Lau, and Lam So White. I don't guarantee that these people will get a chance. First, Mr. Lam Chun Sing. My first question. Well, I'm not going to name the reply. I've asked a number of questions in relation to poverty alleviation. I understand that the secretary is one for pragmatic work. He doesn't get bogged down with figures. However, how do we assess the effectiveness of some policies? Say, for example, the community living room. Not many families take part. On the other hand, the light public housing is still in the pipeline waiting to be commissioned. The cash rent subsidy scheme will expire this year. The $2,500 student subsidy is scrapped. The latest unemployment rate has increased to 3.2%, a mild increase. So for elementary workers, all these have an impact. These signs tell us that there is not much improvement in poverty. So how do you gauge the effectiveness of poverty alleviation measures? I would like to ask about 089, which is the after-school childcare service. This is a very good policy. There are about 6,000 places. I would like to know about the overall effectiveness. We provide childcare services. The participants, are they employed? Do they rejoin the labor market on a part-time or full-time basis because they have joined the after-school childcare service? If it is a good effectiveness with an amount of just tens of millions of dollars a year, I think you will get a great benefit from releasing women into the labor market. Perhaps, apart from the 100 or so primary schools, you should invite more schools to join. Targeted poverty alleviation. Our policy this time is very clear. We want to provide targeted measures with precision to help them. In the past, the poverty line was flawed. It's just like you measure the BMI of a person while ignoring other aspects. There is a detailed assessment for every one of our policy. Well, for the community living room, the scale is small. We have 6 And there will be another 3 with funding allocation. Altogether this year there will be 9, helping at least 4,000 households living in subdivided units, benefiting about 160,000 people. We engage credible organizations to assess the effectiveness. We have spoken to operators of after-school childcare service. We understand that mothers benefited greatly from it. Other than the fact that they can rejoin the labor market, they enjoy a better relationship with their children. While parents are often stuck with helping the children do their homework. They ended up arguing with them. For this project, the biggest result is that mothers are happier because the children would have finished their homework when they were at school, so they enjoy a better relationship.
Mr. Chao Shiu Chung, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow on my own question. 047. That's about care services for persons with disabilities. We know that the waiting time for RCH for PWDs is very long. The administration launched the incentive scheme to encourage provision of residential care homes for PWDs in new private developments. The scheme has been rolled out for 1 year and no applications been received. This is much less effective than the scheme for RCHEs. Will you adjust the scheme? Also, I'd like to ask about the quality of RCHDs. The complaints received by the SWD have went from 98 in 2023 to 133 in 2024-25. Over the past few years, the administrations issued 15 and 14 warning letters, respectively. So I think that the SWD should enhance their transparency because we don't see the details of these non-compliance cases on the internet or on the SWD's website. I'd like to follow up also on the other question, 046 on childcare service. I'm concerned about the insufficient CCCs, childcare centers, that we have. The utilization rate of these CCCs are often 100%. For Wong Tai Sin, Sai Kung, Southern District, we don't have any standalone CCCs. I know that there is a plan to, starting from 2024, within 3 years, there will be 11 new standalone CCCs. But Wong Tai Sin and the Southern District are excluded from the plan. So for childcare services for children aged between 0 and 2, is the administration going to increase the number of service places for these children? Thank you. Secretary. RCHDs are mostly supported by the government. We want to leverage on market forces, but we have to be patient because the market changes all the time. I think that we have to be patient. If we are able to have RCHDs in new developments, then we can increase the number of service places. We attach a lot of importance to the quality of all sorts of RCH in Hong Kong. The SWD is going to monitor the quality very strictly. We will upload the advisory letters, warning letters that we send to any RCH online. We have increased the number of service places of CCC significantly, but it's difficult sometimes for us to identify sites to build standalone CCCs. I know that in some districts we don't have any, and we will work on it. Next, Dr. Taek-chi Yin. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on LWB 109 on the cut of social welfare expenditure. The Secretary just now touched on this point. I'd like to talk about the stance of the welfare sector. We oppose to the cutting of social welfare expenditure across the board because the sector offers help to the underprivileged groups in the city. Second, if we have to cut funding by a cumulative percentage of 7, then we will have a drop of $1.5 billion in the social welfare expenditure. If the fiscal position of the government improve this year, is the government going to cancel the funding cut for the social welfare sector? The Secretary talked about how some areas are being exempted from the cut, but I have a few questions. First, on relaxing barriers. SQS has complicated many administrative procedures of the sector. Is there any room for us to streamline the SQS? Second, many P funds are deposited with the banks. Will you allow the organizations to make use of these funds more flexibly? Third, on enhancing resources for the trade. The sector should digitalize to reduce our reliance on manpower. So I wonder if the Secretary has any thought about the digitalization of the sector. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to ask the Director to elaborate. In a few weeks' time, under the leadership of the Director, we have issued a few letters to the sector on the relaxation of barriers. The Director, please. Thank you. As mentioned, in a few weeks, we have rolled out new measures to enhance administrative efficiency and flexibility in the use of financial resources. A day before yesterday, we issued a letter on how we relax the utilization of Provident Fund and relax the requirements for account opening for various social welfare organizations. They can keep all the funds in the same bank account. We also relax the investment requirements. We allow social welfare organizations to procure furniture and equipment out of the S&P list. We will send rental subsidies and rates to organizations in a more speedy manner in the future. The organizations will be more flexible in using their expenditure. For the 7% cut, RSCV and CCSV say will be exempted. For the funding and service agreement, we have been updating them, and the organizations welcome such update. Now, on the sharing of cost, as mentioned, some 20 items enjoyed this cost sharing. Now we increase the number of items to 28. We remind organizations that they are able to still apply for a number of subsidy schemes. We have many long-term measures. Some of them involve fiscal discipline. Some of them involve a collaboration with other departments and bureaus. We'll continue to devise measures to help the trade. Hopefully, in the near future, we're going to roll out more measures to help social welfare organizations to streamline their administrative procedures and make better use of the resources. Ms. Eunice Young. I'd like to ask about reply 106 and 076. On reply 106, that's about protection of children. Just now, the Secretary in his opening remarks talked about the mandatory reporting of child abuse ordinance. It's going to be implemented in January 2026. There will be additional provision on the number of emergency residential child care places and support for child abuse victims and their families that amount to $157.4 million, or rather $186.5 million. Sexual abuse and physical abuse constitute the two major cases of child abuse. We see the number is on the rise. For the number of sexual abuse cases is the highest in 2024. So I wonder how the government can encourage people to make a report against such abuse. For emergency child care places and professional support, they are very important. The latest ordinance involves the mandatory reporting element, but I'd like to see how we can better help victims of sexual abuse and physical abuse. I wonder what support the government has for them. On 076, technology utilization, I know that the government has been using AI, and starting from mid-2025, the AI system will be used in many different residential care homes. So I wonder how this AI monitoring systems work. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Young, for the question. We have received more number of reports since the bills passed. That's because people are becoming more aware of their responsibility to protect their children. They are now more sensitive to the topic. So with the full implementation of the ordinance in 20th of January 2026, we expect to see a rise in the number of reports. So we are prepared. We have allocated more resources to offer help to victims, including increasing the number of emergency residential places. We have also increased the subsidy for foster families because these foster families can help suspected abusees. Now, on the point about technology, at child care centers and RCHDs, we are using AI-powered CCTV systems, but AI is not omnipotent. We have to train it. After the completion of the trial run of the AI-powered CCTV systems, we'll report to members to see how we can better make use of AI. Thank you. Next, Mr. Tan Ka-pyo. Thank you, Chairman. I have two questions on reply 174. I'm concerned about the risk of elderly living alone. 70% of elderly singleton are frail and are at risk, but many of them don't think that they have to install the safety belt. Under 174, reply 174, in 2020, there were 32,745 CSSA recipients who used the subsidy to purchase the EAS, the emergency alarm system. However, in 2025, there are only 25,000 CSSA recipients who used the subsidy to procure the safety belt. Even with the support of the government, there are less people who apply to install the system. We saved some tens of millions of dollars as a result, but I am worried because elderly living alone are at risk. I know that the SWD has been identifying hidden elderly, helping them to install emergency alarm system. Has the government looked into the reason for why we could save money on this regard? Now, on reply 175, that's about the LSGSS. We have some 3,200 NGOs who are receiving subvention under the lump sum grant, but there are only 32 staff members in the SWD who oversee the 3,200 NGOs under the LSGSS. How can they conduct on-site visits in person within 2 years? There's a mention of 42 NGOs who do not meet the requirements. I'd like to know more about the details.
What?
2 questions, Secretary. I thank the member for the questions. I share Mr. Tang's sentiment. For singleton elderly people, we would like to provide as much help to them as possible. Under the CSSA system, if elderly people are in need, they will make an application. Social workers will assist them in making the application. Apart from SWD, I understand that NGOs will also provide assistance as well. But it's just a matter of whether that you can only get assistance from one party. I think it's about hidden elderly people who don't know that they are eligible for assistance. We want to identify these hidden elderly singletons to apply for the emergency link service. Members, please rest assured that the SWD will do a good job in ensuring compliance by NGOs. You understand that we have several thousand staff members in the SWD. The organizations themselves will have to conduct an internal assessment before they get back to us. You asked for a number, that's why we give you the number of staff members in this group. I'll defer to the Permanent Secretary. As the Secretary said, that there are many different sections and different approaches. The 23 people you mentioned, well, they are in charge of one area. If we identify non-compliance or irregularities, we will take enforcement actions and conduct inspections as necessary. Reverend Kuhn, once again, I would like to thank the administration for removing barriers. Before I give you the reply number, I'd like to ask a general question. There will be a reduction in expenditure. We have to ride out the storm together, the challenges together. I understand that we can make use of our reserves, but the reserve will one day deplete. I understand that reserves are there for emergency use. If one day the reserve is exhausted, what do we do? If the government tells us that we will use it to last for these difficult years, and if the reserve is exhausted, will be given more, then that's fine. The reserves will last maybe a maximum of another 10 years. The fact is, we won't even last for 10 years. And I would like to asked about purchase of properties, number 73. In the reply, it says the SWD will work with the government property agency to identify properties. Who will take the lead? If it's the GPA, what is the work process involved? Well, by the time they have identified a suitable premises, it will be gone because of the lengthy procedure. Are there any ways to ensure that a suitable property will be purchased in time? The first question is about reserves. Yes, reserves are for emergency use. There will be a cumulative reduction of 7%. The SWD has provided flexibility to subvented organizations. For large ones, they have 6 years. For smaller ones, they have 5 years. They can save more for later. There is a flexibility. In order to add value to resources, we think that removing barrier is more important. If $1 can be spent as if it's $1.20, it's even better. We should be confident about our economy in the future. It's just that in the meantime, we have to work together to overcome the difficulties. When it comes to purchase of properties, we have to approach the GPA. That's according to the internal guidelines. We are in close liaison with the agency. Flexibility will be given to us as much as possible to buy the property we need. I would like to follow up on 233 about the $2 scheme. Currently, the $2 scheme is like a dollar's chicken coop. We don't know how many people are using it. The card is hiding in a wallet or in a bag. You don't know whether it's the actual card holder. The MTRCR have hundreds and thousands of turnstiles. They have people to guard the gate, but it's useless. Well, currently, say for example, from Tuen Mun to Admiralty is $29.30. A lot of companies hire couriers, delivery workers to travel around Hong Kong. If the scheme is abused, you can easily save $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Even if you're caught, the fine is only $1,000. The bylaws of the MTRCL is useless. So we ask for the MTR penalty to increase. I think it is still reasonable if it's increased to $3,000 or $5,000. The monies saved from abuse prevention will go to the public coffers. Perhaps power can be given to minibus drivers to inspect the card to check identity. I would like to also follow up on 179, that is the school-based, the after-school childcare service. In 2017, at that time, I asked a question to the then Secretary, Mr. Kevin Yeung. I made a suggestion, and it's now borne fruit. I think it is one of the best policies of the government. Currently, there are 174 aided primary schools. Only 120 participate. It's not on a mandatory basis. A number of schools don't think that there is demand, and they don't want to trouble their staff members to stay behind. That's why they don't join. I received a lot of complaints saying that they do need the service, but it's not available in their school. There's nothing they can do. Does it mean that they will be forced to change schools? Can you talk to the Education Bureau to lobby the remaining schools? There is one in my constituency. It's from 6 Yun. There are only 17 students. They provide a service to help these families who are that are in great need. Please do something about it. I thank Mr. Tin for his concern about the $2 scheme. With the Joyu card in place, it is more difficult to impersonate the card user. You understand that the MTRCL has increased the penalty by a great extent. It has the deterrent effect. Well, when a person is caught, the case will go to court. I appeal to the general public. Don't use other people's JoyU card. If you are eligible, then use yours. That will be fine. I thank Mr. Tim for his support of the after-school childcare service. There are no restrictions. Any school that are interested can join. Schools don't have to provide staff members. NGOs will run the program. Schools only have to open and close their doors. Well, if there is demand, tell us. We will work with you to provide a service when needed. My first question wasn't answered. Will the government ask for an increase in penalty to increase it further? Well, the penalty has been increased further. We think it should be reasonable. Next, Mr. Michael Benson-Look. I would like to follow up on 143. That is using government money to buy properties. $20 billion. Only 240 million is used. In the past 5 years, the government said that they have been working with the GPA in negotiation. How? You ask government officers to approach the owner, or you use an intermediary. I'm sure that if the owner knows that the potential buyer is the government, then they will not drop their prices. Only 1% is used to buy 5 premises when the scheme is in place for 5 years. Obviously, it is not effective. Have you reviewed the effectiveness of this program? My other question, given the purchase you've made in the 5 years and the property market in the future, I don't think that the situation is going to improve. Instead of using public money to buy premises for social welfare users, I think that given the current deficit situation, the money should be used better. Will you plow back the $20 billion into the public coffer? I think it will be more direct in your endeavor to address the deficit issue. It will be better than making reductions or increasing fees. Well, there are 2 kinds of allocation. One is a direct allocation. This is only an amount of commitment. When a purchase is made, then we will ask for the sum from the treasury. It's just like you're given a check, but the money is not there yet until you fill in an amount. We understand that there are difficulties encountered. Say, for example, for standalone childcare service, the situation is rather complicated. Some suitable premises are in all districts. But in order to meet all our requirements, say, for example, fire safety, there will be a wholesale conversion and improvement, but the owner refuses to do it. Of course, we make sure that public money is well used. If the price is hiked, we will turn it away. There is one approach. We will turn to office space on higher floors. But these premises are not suitable for children or elderly people, but are suitable for youngsters. So for premises that are on lower floors, the users, that is young families or youngsters, will move to higher floors. And the lower floors will be for elderly and children. We don't think we need $20 billion. But as to the actual amount we need, we'll have to go back before we can give you information. When we have the amount, we will go to the FC.
Mr. Lerman Kong, I'd like to ask about 119. That is the residential care services scheme in Guangdong. I support the improvement and of the scheme. So because I've visited the mainland to visit elderly who retire there, I see that the schemes is very much beneficial to elderly who choose to retire on the mainland. Well, there are a total of some 300 elderly persons residing in the mainland under the scheme. So does the figure meet the goal of the administration in terms of cost effectiveness? Some of the elderly persons whom I met are waiting for RCHEs in Hong Kong. Some elderly people in Hong Kong don't know that they can join the GDRCS scheme while waiting for RCHE places in Hong Kong. So I wonder if elderly on the waiting list for RCHEs know that they can join the GDRCS scheme. I think that the administration should step up publicity and promotion. Are we going to follow up on people who have made inquiries of the scheme for the reason why they choose or not choose the scheme? Because that will help us improve our facilities. If the elderly persons or their families choose not to join the scheme because of transport facilities, then perhaps we could improve them to increase the number of participants. By this, we can make the scheme even better. Thank you. Secretary. The progress of the scheme is up to par and meets our expectation. For details, I'd like to ask Mr. Chong, Deputy Secretary, to elaborate. Mr. Chong Wing-Won, Deputy Secretary. Thank you. Please speak into the microphone. Regarding the GDRCS scheme, over the past 2 years, the administration has rolled out several measures on 2 different areas to improve it. First, supply side measure. We have increased the types of care homes. Previously, only NGO can provide service places. Now, private organizations can join. Mainland care homes can also participate in the scheme now. By this, we have increased the types of care places. Second, we have increased the number of RCHs. Previously, we only had 2. Now we have 15. This is a substantial increase. Another supply-side measure is the increase in the number of cities. Previously, we only have Shenzhen and Chongqing. Now we have 6 cities, including Guangzhou, Zhongshan, Foshan, and Jiangmen. There are 6 cities under the scheme altogether. All these are supply-side measures. We also have demand-side measures. We have taken into account the worries of elderly joining the scheme, including medical costs. The government is going to subsidize elderly with, say, 10,000 emergency or outpatient services fees and $30,000 on inpatient service subsidy. Care service. In May, we're going to offer care services to elderly in the Greater Bay Area. For participants of GDRCS scheme, we're going to offer care services to them so that they can integrate into the Greater Bay Area faster. The third demand-side measure is to offer a 6-month trial period for them. For elderly living in PRH units in Hong Kong, they can join the scheme and live on the mainland for 6 months. If they cannot adapt to the lives there, then they can come back to Hong Kong and their PRH units will be retained. Now on publicity and promotion. Since the SWD has launched the scheme, we have received a few hundreds inquiries. We have published promotional videos on social media and on TV, and we have also promoted the scheme via the community care centers. We've also worked with the sector. Chairman, I don't want to hold the queue. So I wonder if the elderly can get hold of the information, and I wonder if the administration will analyze the data that they collect. They can reply to me in writing. We want more members to put questions. So I hope that we can all learn from the secretary. When the government officials reply to the questions, please be succinct. Ms. Carmen Khan, thank you. I'd like to ask about the $2 scheme. The secretary just now said that in April 2026, we are going to implement the $2 come 80% discount scheme. I'd like to ask about reply number 215. The reply is very detailed. In reply 425, it is said that if the scheme is not advanced to April next year, then we can save 264 million or $2.64 billion. Will we be able to save more given that now we have advanced the implementation date? I've talked to some members around me just now. We don't understand why it takes a year for us to implement the scheme. And the concessionary trip limit will only be implemented even a year after April 2026. The government said that they need time to improve and upgrade the system. Will the secretary explain about the details? And I'd also like to ask why you set the line or draw the line at 240 trips. Only 110 people use more than 240 trips. 100 to 120 trips, only 14,000. Only 170 people who took more than 240 trips. So the 240 limit is not that meaningful because not that many people take more than 240 trips per month. Secretary, we will be able to save $2.64 billion if we implement the scheme in April 2026. That's an additional $2.64 billion. You ask why it takes a year for us to implement the scheme. There are various reasons to it. We have to test the system for 6 months. The testing has been completed. There are still many tests that we have to do. We have, say, tens of thousands of octopus card readers. We need to make sure that the readings is accurate. So it takes 1 year for us to fully implement the scheme. The Octopus Card Limited has been working with us, and we share the cost. The government will fork out 2/3 of the cost. The Octopus Card Limited will share 1/3 of the cost. On the cap of 240 trips, we don't want to not set a limit. There aren't that many people who take more than 240 trips per month, but we at the same time don't want to affect too many people. That's why we draw the line at 240. Thank you. Chairman, I think that the Secretary should look into the figures. 120 to 240, only 21,000 people are involved. I think that the Secretary understands the figures. I think that Ms. Khan wants you to further review the numbers. That's her comment. Next, Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on LWBW 213. That's my question. According to figures from August to November 2024, for long-haul trips with full adult fare over $10 account for 40% of the total number of trips. Some $200 million been spent on the $2 scheme. With the new $2 come 80% discount. If the full adult fare is over $10, then people have to pay only 20%. So for a trip that costs, say, $20, people have to pay $4. Has the government asked the franchise bus companies to impose a sectional fare for long-haul trips so that we can solve the problem of people taking short trips on long-haul routes? Thank you. Secretary, thank you. On the sectional fare issue, I'd like to ask the Commissioner for Transport, Ms. Angela Lee, to take the question. Thank you. Regarding franchise bus companies, we have 700 routes. 80% of them are with sectional fares. We have two types of sectional fares. The first type is the cheaper end part journey section fares. The other type is a front part journey section fare. There are fewer front part journey section fares because if people taking short trips take these long-haul routes, then that will affect people who are genuinely taking long-haul trips. We're looking into whether there is a spare capacity for long-haul routes to cater to the needs of passengers who are taking short trips. We are identifying suitable routes. We're talking to the franchise bus companies. Hopefully, they will introduce sectional fares into more routes. Thank you. Next, Dr. So Chang-Wing. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow on my own question. Reply number LWB 231. On the implementation time of $2 come 80% discount scheme, according to the government's reply, the date is September 2026. Now the Secretary has given us a new date. That's April 2026. Now you are asking the operators to advance the implementation of the scheme to April, and we are able to save some $2.64 billion, or sorry, $260 million. You said that you need time to upgrade the relevant system, and you said that you're working with the Octopus Card Limited and the public transport operators on the relevant implementation details, including system modification, trial runs, etc. So I wonder how long it will take for you to implement the scheme. And you said that you're working with the operators. I think that instead the government should ask the operators and the Octopus Cards Limited to work with the government on the scheme. So I wonder if the administration will ask the Octopus Cards Limited and the public transport operators to upgrade the relevant systems so that you can implement the policies in time. Thank you.
主席，多謝。
Secretary, thank you. Well, it's not a request or a demand. We discuss it. It says at the beginning that it's no later than September 2026. Well, it was done within a very short time, so it was difficult for us to pinpoint a time. But we've endeavored to expedite it. So we want to, we now will implement it in April 2026, and a year later, there will be the limited trip. As to why we don't launch both proposals at the same time, that means it will be October or November next year. The government will not be able to save money. Instead, more will be spent. That's why we want to be pragmatic. We want to launch the $2.20% in April next year before we implement the other one. Mr. Lai Tong Kwok. First, I'd like to follow up on 087. That is the special trustee service. In the past 3 years, according to the reply, there aren't many cases. It's 45, 60, and 66. In the coming year, expenditure is $5.6 million. On average, is about $84,000 per case. My question to the Secretary is, have you looked into this? That is, without affecting service provided to those in need, how you reduce staff emolument. The other question is 088. In relation to the health and care practitioner, I'm glad to hear that the government will provide training courses for health and care practitioner. It seems that at the moment you have in mind whole day courses. Will you consider part-time courses for those who are already working in the sector? They can take the course to upgrade themselves and upskill themselves. How much do you think you charge for the course? Will the government consider providing scholarship or grants, subsidies with some conditions? Say, for example, when they graduate, they will have to work in the sector for a period of time. In this way, you'll be able to train someone who work and provide the service in the sector. I will answer the first question. In relation to the second one, I'll defer to the Permanent Secretary. Not many people use special needs trust. But without a doubt, a lot of time and manpower is spent on processing one case. The number of people who need the service may be small, but they are in great need. We should not try to skim on this. Yes, it's costly, but it's worth it. We only have two choices: to continue to provide the service or scrape it. But we think that there is a need for the service, even though it is costly. That's why we decided to continue with the service. The other question, Permanent Secretary. Just now, the member talked about practitioners in the sector, whether there will be a part-time course available for them. We We'll take that into consideration. This is a new professional rank, that is the health and care practitioner. We want to ensure that there is a career prospect of this rank. We want to make sure that the experience gathered will be well used. As for subsidy provided for the course, we'll see, given when resources allow, how we can provide support to those who sign up for the course. I would like to follow up on $2 scheme 215. It says on average, every day, elderly people taking trips over $10, 38% of them are over the age of 65, 61% are between the age of 60 and 65. The government now proposes a 20% of fare to address the issue of people taking short trips over long-haul journeys. But has it occurred to you the reason why elderly people do that? Between 2024 and 2029, there are 129,000 PRH units in. Only 28.7% are in Kowloon or Hong Kong Island. The rest is in the new territories. The government encourages people to move to the new territories. But at the same time, the government has cut the transport concession. We have an aging society. There are more and more elderly people, they travel, and there are more elderly people living in the new territories. Well, how do you help people who are traveling from the new territories to the urban areas? They account for 71%. Sectional fare. Well, I visited some other cities. People will have to swipe their cards on and off the vehicle. The process is rather smooth. There's no congestion. Well, if you gather information from when people swipe their cards when they get off the vehicle, then you will get more information and statistics, which is conducive to reviewing the schemes. Will you consider that? I thank Ms. Kong for the question. I ask you all to understand that even with $2 or 20% of fare, the government is still forking out a large amount as subsidy. I don't think that our revised proposal would affect the travel pattern of elderly people. If there is a need, they will travel. And elderly people are very thrifty. They will choose the best route. There are many different reasons for people traveling. Sometimes the children have moved to the urban area. The elderly people want to visit their grandchildren. They travel at a lower cost. That's why they offer to travel from new territories to the urban areas to visit their grandchildren. And sometimes it's the other way around. They travel from the urban areas to the new territories. We just want to make sure that the scheme is sustainable. About swiping cards when alighting, I defer to the director. There are many different approaches. For some bus operators, when you get off, you will have to go to the driver to tell them and ask for the concession. A different way is for a device to be placed at the stop. The Joyu card will have to be swiped to get the concession. There are modes of transport that's got a device at the exit. We have a very high patronage for buses. Transportation efficiency is extremely important because we have the highest volume of commuting in Hong Kong. We have to consider all different factors very carefully. There are alternatives, say for example, devices at stops in between. Anyway, we will talk to bus operators to see if they can come up with more routes for sectional fares. Perhaps doing so will cause the least impact to their operation. Ms. Nixie Lam, I would like to ask about the ethnic minority community ambassadors. There are about 150 such ambassadors. That's in relation to reply 92. I'd like to ask about remunerations and relevant expenditure. The program will be extended to 2026. How do you gather feedback about the program? You have spent money on it. We want to gauge effectiveness. The reply is rather vague. It says that they have received positive response and support. Can you give me more specific information about the implementation details and any proposals for enhancements, etc.? I will defer to the Deputy Director, Ms. Leung. We have 46 ethnic minority district ambassadors. They work in different districts. They serve different service units. They cover medical services, integrated family centers, parent centers, PWD support centers, and integrated service centers for carers under SWD and NGOs. We have been gathering information about the service provided. They help to reach out to ethnic minorities. They also provide a translation and interpretation service, organize group activities, and engage in publicity. They also assist service users to fill in forms. In addition to that, they will also provide escort service and visits. We will continue to gauge the effectiveness of the scheme. We will gather feedback from service users. Next, Mr. Chen Pui-Lang. I would like to follow up on two questions. One is 204, the $2 scheme. In a reply, the government said they are unable to provide expenditure relating to the administrative cost of adjusting the octopus devices. I understand that it will take 2 years to launch the $2 20% of fare and the 240 trip limit. I am more concerned about the 240 trip limit. Well, there are only about 200 or so people who take more than 240 trips. So is it proportional to the amount to be spent to launch the trip limit? Yes, the government said that 1/3 of the cost will be shouldered by the Octopus Card Limited. I just wonder whether the administrative cost is worth it by setting a trip limit of 240. The other one is 031 about the Traffic Accident Victims Support Scheme. Over 5 years up to 2025, there are 689 suspected abuse cases. They've been referred to the police. The police have arrested 339 people. Only 6 have been prosecuted. The rest of the cases are under investigation. I'd like to know how come that there is a very low rate of prosecution, because of lack of evidence or any other reasons? Between 23 and 24, the fund registered a deficit. There is a balance, but given the current financial situation of the government, the administration said that they will conduct a review on the scope and eligibility. My question is, will the government also review the financial situation of the fund to ensure that it will be sustainable? 2 questions.
Secretary, thank you. Regarding the $2 scheme, We've been talking to the Octopus Card Limited on the administrative costs. We now will be able to save $680 million per year. On system modifications, the cost will be one-tenth. Hopefully, we can complete the modifications with $60 million. The government will shoulder 2/3 of the cost, while Octopus Cards Limited will shoulder 1/3 of the cost. We want to implement the scheme in 2 phases in order to save money. Thank you. Now, on the TAVA scheme, the police and the judiciary are the ones to prosecute. So I will not talk about the number of successful cases. Now we have completed the review of the scheme. Very soon we'll come to the LegCo to report to members on the review. We will definitely tighten the eligibility criteria and the scope of assistance. We want to protect the interest of the people while improving the scheme. We're going to make a report very soon. Mr. Tony Chair. Thank you. I'd like to follow on my own question. LWB bracket W 190 and 191. Many members have put similar questions, and the secretary have answered them, but I have 2 questions. On the incentive scheme to encourage provision of RCHDs in new development, just now the secretary said that we have to be patient. I can tell you that the private developers have no interest in providing RCHDs in their developments unless you ask a charitable organizations to build it. So I don't think that the secretary have to wait any longer. Given the conditions and the requirements, there's no way that anyone will be interested in providing RCHDs in their developments. We've been working on a similar scheme for RCHDEs, and we spent 10 years' time to have 1 RCHE in new private developments. I don't think that you have to deploy dedicated manpower to oversee the scheme because the relevant staff will have nothing to do. I think that we should adjust the scheme as soon as possible to create incentives for the market. And I think that the property market will be lackluster for a long period of time. Now, on the $20 billion to purchase property, as we all know, the property market is not good. So I support the suspension. I don't think that the government have a full picture of the market, the community, before rolling out measures or policies. Say, for example, the municipal solid waste charging scheme. We've been working on it for so long, spending so much resources. At the end, we have to suspend it. So it shows that the government does not really understand the market situation and people's thoughts and views. I think that the government should try to look into people's difficulties and foresee public expectations for their policies. If they have to withdraw their policy after working on it for a long time, then that's a waste of resources. Thank you. Secretary. Thank you. On the incentive scheme to encourage provision of RCHDs in new private developments, I know that there was no dedicated team for the scheme. When we receive inquiries, then the relevant staff would answer them. I respect Mr. Che's views. He is a veteran in the trade. There's no cost for having this scheme. When there's application, then our staff will work on it. The market changes all the time. In a few years' time, developers may find it profitable to provide RCHDs in their developments. I thank Mr. Che for supporting us in purchasing properties with $20 billion. Secretary, I'm not asking you to cancel the scheme. I'm asking you to review your incentives. We have some 40 minutes left. There are still 10 members waiting to speak. Dr. Wendy Hong, Mr. Stanley Ng, Mr. Kenneth Lau, Ms. Lam So Wai, Mr. Kenneth Leung, and Ms. Maggie Chan may have a chance to speak. But for the rest, they may not. Mr. Andrew Lam, thank you. I have two questions on LWB 100 and 105. Total expenditure of LWD, $120 billion. I wonder how much goes to the beneficiaries. In the government's reply, it is said that the provision for CSSA and Social Security Allowance Scheme amount to some $84.03 billion, and you have also given me a staffing establishment. But I'd like to know how much of the $84 billion go to the pocket of the beneficiaries. Regarding question or reply number 105, I'd like to ask about the support program for the unemployed, SPU. The government said that the percentage for 1 month and 3 months is 18% and 23%. So about 25 to 30% of the people were able to secure a job under the SPU. So I wonder if the government will work on the scheme so that the KPIs can be achieved. Thank you. Secretary. Regarding the $84 billion on the provision for CSSA and the Social Security Allowance Scheme, all of them go to the pocket of the beneficiaries. SWD pay some $200 billion out every day. They all go to the bank accounts of the beneficiaries. For the next question, I'd like to ask Ms. Lau to supplement. Ms. Lau, rather, to supplement. Thank you. Regarding how much of the expenditure of the SWD goes to the beneficiaries, I'd like to supplement. Apart from cash allowance, of course, all of them will go to the beneficiaries. On top of that, we also have administrative costs. Apart from cash allowance, we also offer service. And service are provided by the people. So we allocate resources to subvented organizations to provide services to the beneficiaries. Any follow-up question? There's still one outstanding question. 105. The government still have not met the target. I'd like to know how the government is going to follow up on it. Regarding the support program for the unemployed, we need to support the unemployed to secure gainful employment. It's rather difficult, and we have reported to the relevant panel of the LegCo that we have a new measure for able-bodied CSSA recipients below the age of 60. They will have to participate in unpaid work. In other words, they have to do voluntary works. We don't want we're not punishing them by having this measure, but we want them to integrate into the society better so that they can develop a work habit and accumulate work experience to enhance their employability. Thank you. Next, Mr. Tan Yuehen. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on reply number 168. From 2024-25, the expenditure of a community care team scheme is $9.2 million. 7,000 households have been visited. The outcome is rather good. That's why the scheme has been extended to all 18 districts in Hong Kong. The total expenditure of the scheme is about $179 million. This figure, compared to $9.2 million in 2025, the $179 million with a target of 60,000 households being visited, it means that we spend $2,923 to visit each household. It seems that the cost per household has increased. Why is there such a discrepancy between the years? Also, on the number of visits and the number of households the community care teams have met, they are just quantitative figures. How can we enhance the quality of the visits? Secretary, thank you. I will ask Ms. Maggie Learn, the Deputy Director or the Commissioner for Rehabilitation, to take the questions. Mr. Fletch Chen, Commissioner for Rehabilitation, please. Thank you. On the per household cost or per unit cost, we have actually referred some cases to the emergency assistance system operator. I will give the member a detailed analysis after the meeting in writing. Thank you. Any follow-up questions? If not, Ms. Lillian Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. I have quite a number of questions. I'd like to now ask about 103 and 108. You said that you don't have the relevant figures. On 103, we're talking about the training courses for health workers. The government will subsidize the tuition. But the government have not given me the numbers on the number of graduates. Now, I'd also like to ask about 108. Similarly, you have not told us the numbers. Because we have spent $660 million, that's not a small sum. I think that the government should retrieve the, say, records or reports from the NGOs if they don't have the relevant figures at hand. Maybe the government should make use of AI to consolidate the information. 104. The government also did not give me the relevant numbers. The information that I request exists in reply number 033. I also like to ask about 040. The administration said that there are 33,570 calls made to the designated hotlines. And there are some 50% of inquirers who have mental problems. In the second tier, you may engage, say, counselors for the relevant support. I wonder if you have more details about the kind of support that you offer. I also like to ask about reply 107. According to the annex, under the enhanced navigation scheme in 2022 to 23, you have recruited some 400, you spent some $40 million. However, in 2024, you have recruited 220 people, you spent some $82 million. So you have spent double the amount to recruit a similar number of people. I'd like to also ask about 105 regarding foster care families. You said that you have spent $253 million on 1,200 children who are beneficiaries. But in 047, I see that only 863 people have benefited. I wonder why the number of beneficiaries differ.
네, 국장님 답.
5 questions have been asked. Let's see how many the secretary can cover. Well, I think the questions ask for great details. Perhaps I'll answer after the meeting. Are there any that you think you can answer now? No, because details are asked for. I think Ms. Kwok would like to know more. We'll try to answer as much as possible. We will provide as much information as we can to give her a satisfactory answer. But then I have this question about the dedicated hotline. There is a high demand for emotional counseling. So will you conduct an assessment on the effectiveness of the scheme? Which reply? 104. So the dedicated hotline. Well, the headlines meant by social workers, it's not just for emotional support, and there is also a referral service, say for example for childcare service or respite service. Counseling is just one part, so the hotlines meant by social workers. Ms. Wendy Hong. In relation to transient population, those who are working is very low. In 2024, excluding foreign domestic workers of only 54%. In Singapore, excluding foreign workers is 68%. So we're lower by 14% compared to Taiwan, Macau, or Japan, South Korea, Malaysia. Any one country, our percentage is low and is dropping. Last week, there was a debate on importation of workers. The motion was negatived because it's very controversial. Reality is that we have manpower shortage. We have, at the same time, able-bodied people who are not carers who refuse to work. Is it the case that we have a problem with our social welfare system? Can we put in place a push and pull system to try to get people to work? In relation to the GBA Youth Employment Scheme, in 24-25, the expenditure is $10 million. The year before is $6.6 million, an increase by about 60%. We see that the number of youths participating has dropped from 710 to 417. It seems that you've spent more on publicity for a lower turnout. For this GBA scheme, it started in 2021 with 1,091 people supporting. Last year, it was 417. Is this sustainable? Do we have to rely on increasing the amount of subsidy to attract participants? Well, the second question is for the afternoon session, but I'll answer anyway. Many factors are in play in affecting the turnout of the GBA Youth Employment Scheme. We don't have any plan to scrape it. The amount of subsidy will increase from 10,000 to 12,000 because we want to provide more incentives for youngsters, taking into account the general situation. The other question is of a very wide scope. I think Ms. Hong asked if our welfare is too good for able-bodied people to work, just like in the US. But it's not the case. Let's look at the number of people who are receiving CSSA or cash subsidy. Most of them are elderly people. CSSA recipients that are unemployed account for a very small number. There are these recipients, but they account for a very small number of people. For the $80 billion of Social Security allowance, most of it goes to elderly people. We think that our system should exist because it's needed. But of course, we will continue to review it to see if there are any ways to improve it. Next, Mr. Stanley Ng. I would like to follow up on 154 and 155. First one is about the Guangdong pilot scheme. I understand that the administration is working very hard in this regard to provide more choices to elderly people. They would like to assist elderly people to retire in the GBA. The government would like to provide quality service to them. I understand that private homes are involved. For some of these private homes, they ask for a very large amount of deposits, deterring certain people. Will you assist people who are unable to pay the hefty deposit? The other question is about the voucher schemes. There are 6 levels of a co-payment. For certain types, the utilization rate is rather low. Have you looked into it? I understand that in some districts, the vouchers have a very high demand, whereas in others, the demand is low. How will the administration address the discrepancies, the difference? In some districts, there is an over-demand, whereas in others, there is an under-demand. I will ask for Mr. Chong, the Deputy Secretary, to give you more information. I understand that for some homes, they ask for a deposit. But of course, we would like to help elderly people to live in the home they prefer without being stopped by the deposit. The concept is that money will follow the user. The vouchers will enable users to make a choice of their preference. Let's hear from Mr. Chong. The Guangdong scheme is a residential care service. Participants don't have to pay. Money follows the user, and they don't have to pay. There is another scheme in the pipeline. They are CSSA elderly recipients that will live in residential care homes on the mainland. They'll be given $5,000. Under the scheme, they will have to pay the deposit. However, we will talk to the homes so that the deposit can be paid by installments. We are in the process of discussing this issue with homes. We don't think there'll be a problem. A number of homes have agreed to this approach. I think the service is available to the $5,000 for CSSA recipients. I would like to follow up on 223, one asked by Ms. Reverend Kuhn on the $2 scheme. The revised scheme will save money and will also resolve the issues of short trips over long journeys. If it's over $10, then 20% of the fare will have to be paid. There is a limit of number of trips of 240. Well, there is a review report. According to statistics, 90% of the users don't take more than 70 trips a month. The government said that with the real name registration over 3 months, those that are between 60 and 64, as well as eligible PWDs, they used about 30 to 40 trips a month. About 360 beneficiaries take more than 240 trips. Based on what did you decide? On the 240 trips as well as the $2, $20 to 20% fare. Is it correct to assume that you check cases that take more than 240 trips? We have already answered this question. We would like to preserve the use of our resources to make this scheme sustainable. Well, the government paying 80% of the fare is still a large amount of subsidy. We have explained on a number of occasions about the 240 trips. We don't want the subsidy to be unlimited. Yes, only about 360 people take more than 240 trips a month, but we don't want it to be unlimited. Without a limit, then someone can use 600 can take 600 trips. In our revised approach, we can curb the number of extreme usage. The most important thing, after all, is not to affect the majority of users. Most of the people take less than 240 trips. Mr. Lau asked if you will investigate into the extreme cases. It's very difficult in the current situation. At most, we can check whether they are using their own card. Say, for example, a 90-year-old, if the card is used more, too often, then we wonder how come this 90-year-old is so healthy. With a limit of 240, then it enables us to take action. Next, Ms. Nam So Wai. I would like to follow up on 107, the residential care home voucher schemes. It will be increased to 6,000. My concern is how you will enhance the monitoring system to boost quality. According to your plan, you said that the SWD will conduct random checks to check records, operation. There are also random interviews of users. You already have a code of practice, and there is also the service quality standard. However, the audit report has reviewed some problems, say for example, serious overcharging, poor quality, say for example, changing the diapers of elderly people once a day or just turn them over once a day. How do you give users confidence to use the service vouchers? You talk about random checks and visits. What is the effectiveness? If you identified irregular cases, what will happen? Can you give me more information? How many of these homes are involved? How many verbal warnings have been given? But with all these rules and regulations in place, if you don't do a good job, then it is meaningless. This is reply 107. I'm not sure if you're talking about service or license. So I will defer to either of the deputy director. Perhaps I will have a go first. Ms. Leung. Institutions participating in the scheme will have to sign an agreement, a service agreement, which spells out all the terms, say for example, charging criteria, conditions. They will also have to implement according to the guidelines of personal care. When inspections are conducted, we will check if these terms are complied with. Say, for example, if the personal care plans are fully complied with, we will check the number of diapers used. On a regular basis, we will conduct unannounced checks. Warnings will be given if there are irregularities. If these irregularities are serious, we may consider terminating the service agreement.
數據嘅，因為
即係頭先
Does the administration have any concrete figures? Secretary. Chairman, perhaps we will supplement with the figures in writing after the meeting. Ms. Lam asked for a series of numbers and figures. Next, Mr. Kenneth Leung. Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to put my question. I'd like to follow up on reply 125. That's about community parents and children centers. The government said that the 4 CPCCs are offering support to families with children aged below 6. I support the direction because play is very important to children. I have a few follow-up questions. We have 22 CPCCs. Will the government retrofit this CPCC to accommodate to the demand? When will we review the pilot scheme? If the pilot scheme is effective, we'll extend the scheme to all 18 districts. We have to design the play in such a way that it helps the development of the children. I wonder if there is any specific requirements on the operators of these CPCCs. Thank you. I will ask the Deputy Secretary to elaborate. Thank you. Ms. Lau. Mr. Leung asked if we will retrofit children and youth centers into CPCCs. The provision of CPCCs is on a pilot basis. The target users of children and youth centers are children aged above 6. Now we are going to turn 4 of them into centers that offer service to children aged between 0 and 6, as well as their parents. As mentioned, we want to promote parent-child interaction by offering play-based service. And we also want to target high-risk families and equip parents with positive parenting skills. And we also have intervention services. Because of the services that we offer, we are able to increase the ceiling of the age limit. We don't offer just a parenting service, but our service will help lower the number of child abuse. What about the service providers of play-based service? Similar to services provided by, other services provided by the SWD, we sign an agreement with the service providers. We set out the requirements on service, manpower. So please rest assured. Thank you. Is there any other members who wish to speak? If not, Ms. Maggie Chan, please. I'd like to ask about reply 46. That's about childcare service. I'd like to ask, over the past 1 year, what is the total expenditure on childcare service? And I also like to ask about the distribution of resources and how much, what is the percentage of childcare services in terms of the total expenditure. I'd like to ask about the Annex 2024, page 160. The usage or utilization rate of services is not high. There is a standalone CCCs with a utilization rate of 65. For other centers or services, the utilization rate are generally 41, 56, 45%. I wonder why the utilization rate of some services are so low. Is it because of lack of promotion? The utilization rate of different services differ or vary in different districts. For Kowloon City standalone CCCs, the utilization rate or the number of places is 1,152. However, the places in standalone CCCs in other districts are just a few hundreds. But utilization rate of standalone CCCs in Kowloon City is 57%, but the same rate in Kwai Ting, Sha Tin, Samshipo, Wangcha is 100%. We will give you the concrete figures in writing after the meeting. I will ask my Deputy Secretary to talk about the utilization rate. Social welfare service is offered on an interactive basis. Even if the utilization rate is low in some districts, we still need to offer the service. Parents don't send their children far away for childcare service. There are also many limitations to the childcare centers and their service. Mr. Leung or Ms. Wong or Ms. Leung? Thank you. Let me give you some figures. Currently, there are 550 childcare centers and childcare centers and kindergartens offering some 40,000 service places. About 9,000 service places are subsidized by the government. The subsidy amount ranges from $300 to $400 million. Parents choose which CCCs to go to. We don't have a centralized waiting list. Very often, parents choose to put their children in CCCs near their homes. Apart from standalone CCCs or CCCs attached to kindergartens, well, their utilization rate is rather high. For OCCS and EHS, the utilization rate depends on the demand from the parents, but we try to offer such a service in all 18 districts in Hong Kong so that the parents can use the service when they need it. I do need the detailed figures. They said that they will supplement after the meeting. That concludes this session. The next session will start at 2 p.m. today. Thank you.